there's one here. You can use this one.
Our tax collector sent our bill.
Messing around. Be serious.
I just see on a daily basis, I'm sure.
Can you go to services or
Yeah, I got suitable for a brand.
See? I don't
Oh, we got paperwork early.
Thank you.
That's all the. There's a mess. Just all the Good evening. The hour of 7 o'clock having arrived, I call to order the reorganization meeting for the Woodland Hills School Board for the 2017-2018 school year, I guess. Please call the roll.
Ms. Ava Johnson? Here. Mr. Jeff Hanchett?
Here.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Here.
Ms. Sade Seligson?
Present.
Mr. David Graves?
Here.
Mr. Mike Belmont?
Here.
Ms. Jamie Glasser?
Present. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. At this time, we'll have the swearing in for our new members, newly elected and newly re-elected board members.
You could all stand and...
Where would you like to be?
You can do it in the middle here,
Yeah.
Judge Caulfield.
We'll do them in alphabetical order since we're in school.
Sounds good.
Okay. You do it all at once if you wish, but it's up to what you prefer, what everybody prefers. Do it individually, that's great.
Individually. Michael, we'll do you first. Raise your right hand, please. I, Michael Belmont. I, Michael Belmont, do solemnly swear. That I will support, obey, and defend. The Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution of the United States of America. And the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And that I will discharge the duties of my office. And that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. With fidelity. Congratulations, Michael. Thank you, Tom. Right hand, please. I, David Graves. Do solemnly swear. That I will support. I know I did this. I will support, obey, and defend. The Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And that I will discharge the duties of my office. And I will discharge the duties of my office. With fidelity. With fidelity. Congratulations. I, Akia Kester,
I, Kia Hester,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations. Raise your right hand, please. I, Sade Sigelsson,
I, Sade Seligson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the Constitution of the
Commonwealth of
Commonwealth
Pennsylvania,
of Pennsylvania,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Connor.
I, Paige Stronglaw,
I, Paige Strasbaugh,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support,
obey
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to everyone that's won their office and to everyone that is on the school board. Thank you also very much for everything that you do. As everybody in the community, we are hoping and praying for you, and if I can be of any assistance, please contact me at any time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we proceed with the rest of the meeting, I want to make a couple of remarks in light of recent events in our communities. The past 2 weeks have been unspeakably difficult for the Woodland Hills family and the violence that has impacted our communities and our students is senseless. The district mourns with the families of Augustus Gray and with Jeremy Turner's family, and we pray for the recovery of the student who's currently fighting to live. Gun violence, as we all know, has been a reality in our communities for many years, but never has its impact been felt by our district so significantly over so short a period. We as a board are committed to ensuring that our schools are safe spaces and to ensuring that our students can access the resources that they need. We have provided and will continue to provide counseling, and we will do so for as long as it's needed. We urge students, faculty, and staff to make use of those services. Issues that impact our communities impact our schools. It is our responsibility and our obligation to combat regional violence. These violent and traumatic acts have a detrimental impact on the mental and physical well-being of our students, faculty, and staff, and thus on the atmosphere of our schools and the ability to teach effectively and learn well. Because this is the case, we are also working to bring together communities and partners to put an end to this violence. It cannot continue. We ask you to join us in working to stop violence in our communities and to help us. To that end, the district will host a community forum at 6:30 p.m. this Thursday, December 7th, here at the Fairless Administrative Center. Please plan to join us for this conversation. Thank you. And now moving on to the agenda for the reorganization meeting. We need to appoint a temporary president. Are there nominations?
Motion to nominate Jamie Glasser.
I second it.
Generally, for temporary president, do we? Is that okay?
What's that?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Temporary president is generally the solicitor. Is that right?
No, it can be. It
okay.
Can be usually, they actually should be a past board member. We have temporary solicitors been nominated. And any other nominations?
Okay, that's fine. Seeing none.
All those in favor of Jamie Glasser as temporary president, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Seeing none.
Temporary president.
Okay. Moving on to the appointment of board president. Are there nominations?
Nominate to motion for David Graves as vice president.
No, this is for president.
Oh, this is for president of the board.
Oh, I'm sorry. Permanent president, Jamie Glasser.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further nomination? Okay. Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Actually, probably best do a roll call.
Okay. Do a roll call for that.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Kester? Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Strasburg?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Moving on to the appointment of a board vice president. Are there nominations?
Yes, I would like to nominate Mike Belmont.
Second.
Second, Mr. Belmont. Any further nominations?
I'd like to nominate David Graves.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay. All right. Then, in that case, we'll go around and...
Any other nominations?
Sorry, any other nominations? Other nominations?
Nominations closed. Now roll call.
Just when I say their name, they'll say who they want. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Ms. Seligson?
David Graves.
Mr. Hanchett?
Mr. Belmont.
Ms. Johnson?
Belmont.
Kester?
Mr. Belmont.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Mr. Belmont.
Ms. Strasburg?
Mr. Belmont.
Mr. Belmont?
Mr. Belmont.
Mr. Graves?
Mr. Belmont.
Ms. Glasser?
Mr. Belmont. Okay. Congratulations, Mr. Belmont.
Congratulations.
Moving on to the approval of meeting dates, times, and locations. This will be for the 2018 year. There are times attached to your tab that are the regular meeting dates for next year. A couple of things to note. There will be just one meeting in July, as has been our practice. It'll be a legislative meeting on, I believe, July 18th. And in November, because of the early Thanksgiving next year, rather than having our meetings on the 2nd and 3rd, Wednesdays, it'll be the first and second Wednesday so that we avoid the evening before Thanksgiving. I think people might be otherwise engaged that evening. Anyone have any other? Okay. Is there a motion to accept the calendar as proposed?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any discussion of the calendar? Okay. Seeing none, call the roll.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Kester?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Strasburg?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes. That will move us to the approval of committee meeting dates and times. Is there a motion to accept the calendar as proposed?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mrs. Seligson. Any discussion of the committee meeting dates? Seeing none, call the roll.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Kester?
Yes.
Dr. Hildebrand?
Yes.
Ms. Strasburg?
Yes.
Mr. Belmont?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Seligson?
Yes.
Mr. Hanchett?
Yes.
Ms. Glasser?
Yes. Okay. At this point, we have completed the agenda for the reorganization meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn that meeting so we can move to the legislative meeting?
So moved.
Technically, this public meeting, there's comment, but really for the regular meeting, that may be best. But again, we have to open it for public comment for this. So,
Apologies. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board at this time? Noting that we'll be moving into the legislative meeting wherein there's additional opportunity. Okay. Okay. That being done, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That will move us to the legislative meeting.
okay. Wait.
Okay. That's
Yeah, click on me. Okay. Yeah, click on me. And that should do. Cheat.
okay.
Do they know how to work the computers?
I now call to order the legislative meeting for the Woodland Hills School Board for the month of December 2017. Ms. Pule, will you call the roll?
Ms. Ava Johnson?
Here.
Ms. Paige Strasburg?
Here.
Mr. Jeff Hanchett?
Here.
Dr. Jeff Hildebrand?
Here.
Ms. Akia Kester? Excuse me.
Here.
Ms. Sade Seligson?
Present.
Mr. David Graves?
Here.
Mr. Mike Belmont?
Here.
Ms. Jamie Glasser?
Present. Having just done a flag salute, I think we can dispense with that. But we will stand now for a moment of silence.
Don't have any specific.
Tripped over all these cords.
Thank you.
Okay. That'll move us to the acceptance of the minutes for the agenda and legislative meetings in November. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Johnson. Any discussion? Corrections? Okay. Seeing no discussion, we'll have a vote.
I have to find out why this isn't working, but we have 8 yeas and 1 nay.
Okay. Minutes are approved with a vote of 8 in the affirmative and 1 in opposition.
mean you're getting the votes, they're just not showing up on the
I'm
screen?
getting the votes, they're just not showing
Okay.
up on the screen. We're stuck at the reorg.
You may have to back out and start over.
Well, do we,
We can keep going.
The rest,
Yeah, just keep going.
he's here for the rest.
here we go. Okay. We have not yet had an executive session this month, but we expect to go into executive session when we reach the personnel section of the agenda for the evening. Any announcements?
Yeah, I just have two brief announcements. A reminder that our Hugs for the Holidays event is this Saturday, December 9th at 9 a.m. at the junior senior high school. Our Hugs volunteers have worked really hard to put together a great program, so I hope that a lot of people can come out for that. Also, as Ms. Glasser already pointed out, we'll have the community forum on safe streets and schools this Thursday, December 7th at 6:30 here at the Fairless Center. That's all I have, Ms. Glasser.
Okay. Do we have student speakers this evening? See any?
I don't think we do.
Okay. We'll move on then. Presentations. I believe we have our auditors, Ms. Zelenovsky, do you have a brief presentation to give us? Please. Thank you.
Good evening. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to take a quick look at the draft that we've sent out in your package. I'm pleased to announce our opinion on the financial statements is going to be an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that we can give as auditors on the financial statements. Basically, we believe everything in the financial statements to be materially accurate. Oh, sorry. A couple things to comment on in the financial statements. One, when you look at the liability section on the statement of net position, there's a $99 million liability. That's your share of the pension liability, for the teachers. That was new a couple years ago. It was a $9 million increase from last year to this year expense, and frankly, that number is going to continue to climb. Surrounding school districts that I work with, Gabe, Hempfield, Penn Trafford, they're all in the same boat. So their liabilities are also very similar to yours. General fund, one positive thing, the general fund balance increased about $6 million. $4 of that's pretty much attributable to the millage increase, and $2 of it's attributable to state and local grants increase. As far as expenditures, that was about an increase, slightly less than that. Sorry, this is throwing me off. I apologize. And overall, the total fund balance did increase $6.8 million. Total fund balance. There's also a subsequent event. There's a new bond issue. I think the gentleman's here probably to talk about that. The board authorized $85 million. It's going to be in waves. I think $10 million closed in October.
Yes.
So, one of the things we do as part of any audit is we have to audit, the district as a whole, and then we have to look at the federal dollars that flow through the district, and we have to select different programs each year to audit. Audit for compliance with the federal audit guidelines. The two programs we looked at this year were Title I and KTO Striving Readers. I'm pleased to announce that we didn't have any compliance findings or any findings in internal controls over those two programs. And not only we apply that logic then to the district as a whole, but they're the two specific programs, federally funded programs that we looked at this year. So no audit findings, which is good. A lot of the districts we work with do have audit findings. So the people working on those programs are doing a nice job. Any questions of us?
Do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Mr. McKay, I believe you're next. Okay.
My name is Mike McCaig with RBC Capital Markets. I acted as the district's investment banker on the bond issue, and you'll be seeing me sometime in 2018. I'm here to discuss an item on your agenda on continuing disclosure and the commitment to the hiring of DAC, which is a dissemination agent. And that has to do with your bond issues, both the bond issue that was done earlier this year and the existing bond issue that you have. This is a focus of the Securities and Exchange Commission, really a major push by them to make sure that issuers of municipal bonds put out what needs to be put out in terms of your financial statements and other information that's required. Much like a corporation, when they do a corporate debt issuance, they need to put out their 10Ks and 10Qs and things like that. A school district has to do the same thing. And this company is a third party that would help the school district with that endeavor. And as I said, the SEC has made this a big push, and they've even gone as far as to come after board members and administrators on a personal level. So this contract is a third party that would take that liability off the school district and have them pick that liability up on behalf of the school district. The contract is, I believe it's in your packages, and many school districts across the country, and certainly within Pennsylvania and Western Pennsylvania, have hired this. It is a one-time fee on one-time initial and then an annual fee. It's $3,000 total, and then $1,500 thereafter. And it doesn't matter how much debt the district issues. So you're planning on issuing more debt potentially in the future. This fee doesn't change. And the other thing that I wanted to really point out was that it can be at whatever point, if you'd like to stop their service, it's not a commitment to a long-term, 5 or 10 year contract. It can be stopped at any time. But after a lot of discussion with the administration and the attorneys that are involved in your bond issue, we believe that it is a good idea for the district. So I'm here to kind of discuss that with you and answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions from Kay?
Yeah, so I have a question. So if we do this and then we make a mistake, what's the sort of consequence? I don't feel like dealing with the IRS again or anything like that.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's really hard to say.
Depends on the mistake.
There's potentially a mistake. There's filings, and it could disrupt the next bond issue. I'm glad you asked this question, because one of the things that it can actually turn around to be a positive by hiring DAC. It actually goes on the cover of your official statement and could potentially assist in the selling of the bonds. The buyer of a bond could see that you've hired this dissemination agent, and it could help marginally with the interest rate. So I'm not going to say it's going to pay for itself, but it's a definite positive. But the negative is, I mean, if you take it to the nth degree, the SEC comes in and does what they do. The immediate negative is that it impedes your ability to issue bonds in the near term.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mike, go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
Thanks. I just want to say, so with the SEC tightening up regulations, this is an insurance policy, is what you're telling us?
Basically.
Okay.
I was under an assumption that it was more about credit worthiness than it is about more of an insurance policy or an SEC commitment when it was first brought to us.
Well, this is really what it is, it's a third party that's going to assist the school district in making sure all the filings are made on Woodland Hills School District's behalf and take the certain liabilities if they're not. So, in that respect, it is kind of an insurance policy, if you want to look at it that way.
Okay, and why wasn't it necessary before? For the last several years, or even last year. I believe this would be the first year for this, right?
This would be the first year. I would say that this is kind of a newer development.
Is it a development with us, or is it a development with the SEC?
It's always been, this continuing disclosure has always been there. It's probably since 2012 or so, and even some before. but the push from the IRS has really been over the last several years. Does that answer your question?
Does this only pertain to new bonds? So we've had outstanding issues, but this has never been brought to us until we issued new bonds, basically, right? So would they pertain to the things that we took out in 2005, or is that sort of not relevant?
It doesn't go back that far.
Okay.
But it does go back to the bonds we did this year, last year, and then actually the one prior issue.
2013
falls within the realm because they're still outstanding.
Okay, so the one from last, okay.
2013 bond also.
The 13s are still outstanding, correct.
Could you go with the fees again? So you said initial fee of $3,015 every year. For 3 years.
It's initially $1,500 and then $1,500 annually.
No, the initial is $3,000.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a what do you call a setup fee of $15,000, which I think is $1,500. There's a savings, I think, of $5,000 that they've offered us. Look in the document. Thereafter, it'll be a $1,500 renewal.
Right.
Does anyone else have questions? Mr. McKeag at this point? Okay. Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. McIntosh?
Thank you for inviting me, and thank you, President Glasser, Superintendent Johnson, Assistant Superintendent Lenz, and certainly Ms. Nahey, Principal of Woodland Hills Junior Senior High School. I'm here as a representative of the Greater Pittsburgh Coalition Against Violence, and we have developed a very strong relationship with Woodland Hills Junior Senior High School since about last year. I was here before you several months ago with regards to an incident that occurred earlier in the year, and I spoke to you at that time as well. But since then, we've developed a very good relationship with Ms. Nahey and Assistant Superintendent Lenz based on the program that we're presenting. We right now have approximately 30 students at the junior senior high school who've signed up to be what we call student leadership team to put together a youth summit, an anti-violence youth summit. And just to give you a little bit of background, I was a former principal of the Duquesne City School District before I became the coordinator of the youth summits. And I saw the things that were happening in the community, and I did not want this to spill over into the school system. And so I decided that this would be a good place for me to start with having students build capacity to meet these issues head on themselves. We want them to be the solution makers in this. And so we developed this program, and it's been in operation with myself and my colleague, Mr. Kevin Carmichael. I lost him. And we've been working together with putting together youth summits. I will let him speak to you about the many places that we've been thus far, but we are right now in the process of working with the junior senior high school, putting together a youth summit. And we have documentation, and I believe I brought this before. There's over 833 strategies, action strategies, that can be used by anyone in the community. And I believe I left this information, I believe, with Assistant Superintendent Lenz. Since then, we've decided no one is going to read this document of 833 things, and so we came up with an executive summary that kind of outlines what's in the larger document. And so with that being said, we are looking for the support of the school district and certainly the board here to help us put this program together for the students. And it's an ongoing program. We don't believe in a hit or miss. We go in with the summit, but after that, your student leadership team carries this on, and they come up with different things that they can do throughout the school year to come to some solutions about the violence that's happening within the community and within the school. But they are the ambassadors for peace for this, and we want to give them the skills to work through some of these issues when they come and face with adverse things in their life. So with that being said, I'm going to ask Mr. Carmichael to share with you how the actual summit looks in action. Mr. Kevin Carmichael.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. So, as my partner said, we're looking for your support and your approval moving forward with our Anti-Violence Youth Summits, and we want to give you an idea of exactly what our Anti-Violence Youth Summits look like. So, typically, when we work with a high school, we have about 150 students. We've worked with 100 to 150 students, representative of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. As my partner mentioned, we look for a representative population of the students, generally not 30, but we had an overwhelming response at Woodland Hills. Generally, about 10 students will speak for the rest of their school population. What they're speaking on is what issues surrounding violence pertain to their particular communities. For example, we have an Anti-Violence Youth Summit on December 13th at Silver Rocks High School. 3 topics that the student leadership team picked were gang violence reduction, gun violence reduction, and teen dating violence / violence against women and girls. So what we will do with those 3 topics is we will divide the 150 students between 3 groups of 50. What they're going to do at that point is rotate 45-minute sessions, 1 gang violence reduction, 1 gun violence reduction, and 1 teen dating violence and violence against women and girls. And each of the 50 student groups will experience each of the 3 breakout sessions. And in that breakout session, so after the student leadership team selects the topics that they want to have at their Anti-Violence Youth Summits, we then find facilitators / co-facilitators with a personal investment and a personal experience under that topic. For example, gun violence reduction, we work with a mother who unfortunately lost one of her children to gun violence many years ago. What she does is she speaks on behalf of grieving parents, friends, community members, those other than what she does is she makes a more personal connection with the students from a mother's standpoint. But what we also aim to do is to have someone who is impacted personally by gun violence. In the past, we've worked with a young student named Diallo. He is currently confined to a wheelchair. He was shot when he was 16 years old when he was in high school in Duquesne. And now he's paralyzed. This young man is a powerful speaker. He's a motivational speaker. He's not one who's down on his luck and feels like, woe is me. He feels like it's his mission in life to stop everyone he can from achieving the same fate. And so for the gun violence reduction piece, we would like to present, for example, Ms. Valerie Dixon and Diallo to represent both sides of the fence, if you will. Just to give an example of what the facilitators will look like for the session, or for the summer. So again, to recap, typically we have 3 to 4 topics. The students at Woodland Hills have already chosen their 4 topics. After they have chosen their topics, we move forward with choosing the facilitators and then working with the student facilitators and the facilitators together so that we're on the same page going into the Youth Summit. Typically, the Youth Summit starts at about 9 a.m. and ends at about 1 p.m. during the school day. At this, as I said, it's our goal to make sure that you are 100% abreast with what we're looking to do and what we're asking for your support for. So at this time, I'd like to welcome any questions, any and all questions.
Did you set a date yet?
No, sir. We're meeting with the students on Thursday or on Friday, and we're going to meet with the 30 students, and at that point, we'll come up with a date for the Youth Summit to move forward. Yes, sir.
How often do you meet?
So far, we've met with the student leadership team twice, typically 2 to 3 times, as many times as it takes to make sure that everybody knows exactly what to expect from the event. Typically 2 to 3 times.
Are you able to get parents involved?
Yes, typically in the past we've gotten parents to volunteer. Minimally, what we're looking to do is get more parents involved. Many of you know sometimes that's a bit of a challenge, but that is the goal, to involve all community members. I'd like to underline all.
You said Woodland Hills already, they already have 4 topics?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what the topics are?
Yes, sir. Should I do that? I didn't bring up the list. If I can try to recall off the top of my head, internet and social media bullying was one of the topics they chose. Gun violence reduction and gang violence reduction. And they chose the topic of drugs, and they wanted to approach the opioid epidemic from the angle of mental health. They drew the connection between drugs / the opioid epidemic and mental health concerns, and so.
Gateways.
Oh, this excuse me, gateways fresh in my head.
That was Gateway's agenda.
Okay.
What happened, sir, is that the leadership team has not met yet at Woodland Hills. At that time, the students, those 30 students, will then select the topics that they feel that affect them.
They chose.
Okay, so they haven't chosen their topics. He was giving you Gateway, and I.
It's okay.
It's still interesting.
Yes, I have 4 preliminary topics that were shared with me. Violence against the LGBTQAI community, violence against women and girls, black business community, and restorative justice, the role of former offenders.
Thank you.
You have it.
Sorry for the confusion. We're working with UPrep right now. We're working with Gateway, Woodland Hills, as you know, and several other schools. They're all sort of running together.
Any other questions?
So, is there an ongoing communication between you and the leadership team once the summit is over? Right.
Yes, absolutely. That's the whole point. We just don't want to walk in and do a hit or miss. We want this to be a sustainable program for the student body, so when the 9th graders become 10th graders, they can tell the incoming 9th graders, this is what we do here, and this is how we resolve our issues, and these are the things that we have come up with, and get them on board. So this is a sustainable program that we want to have in the Woodland Hills School District, and since I've developed such a great relationship with them, I'm there so often. We will always have someone there on site to meet with the students based on the student's schedule, based on what the administration can allot us time for.
So maybe you got it. So you said usually it's 9 through 12?
Yes.
The 7th and 8th grade population there?
We haven't worked with middle schools yet. We've, for lack of a better word, played around with the idea of doing that. But we have not so far worked with middle schools. If we were going to do that, we have a plan, and we would just basically have to water down some of the message that we send for age appropriateness.
We will be working with, however, Linton Middle School and Penn Hills. That's our first middle school that we will be working with. So we do have a plan for a middle school program.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If I could, I would like to publicly thank the coalition. Ms. McIntosh did come out and see us last week after our incidents had occurred. She reached out. She's actually provided quite a bit of mentorship to me as a former principal at Duquesne. So I just wanted to thank them.
Anything else from the board?
So will this be an agenda item at some point for us to see, or are we going to vote? I didn't see it on the agenda for tonight.
I don't see it on the agenda for tonight either. I don't know what we need to approve going forward, but certainly as those things
we can
come up.
Get set up with something
Yeah.
just as a formality.
Okay.
When we get to
As
the
those
summit date set, we'll bring that back.
So look for that in the future on the agenda. Okay.
Jamie, I had a question.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mr. Belmont.
Early on in the presentation, you indicate we have 30 students who stepped up, and from what I heard, we were above average compared to other schools that we go into. A lot more kids stepped to the plate. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Anyone else have questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Mr. Garland.
Dr. Garland.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I represent the University of Pittsburgh at the Graduate School of Public Health. I run their violence prevention project. I have been funded by the county to do street outreach, and this is one of the communities that I'm going to be in. So one of the things on Thursday's meeting, I requested this community forum so that we could talk to parents, talk to kids, and administrators and teachers. You know, because I've been known for that I might not stop the first shooting, but I could stop the retaliation based on the folks that I have in the streets. Lee Davis is one of my outreach workers, or we really don't call them outreach workers, our life coaches. I'm bringing all the resources that I have within the county and with the University of Pittsburgh to address some of the issues that's going on in the streets. My hope is to quell some of the violence that is going on, not only in this community, but also McKeesport, Wilkinsburg, and Duquesne as well. I don't want to go into a long, drawn-out thing, but we've been on the streets and we've been talking to some of the young people already. So we hope to come back at some point with some of the recommendations to you and to the district on all our findings. If you have any questions, I don't want to draw this out.
Just to let the board know, I met with, Beach and I met with, and Candy met with Professor Garland last week and then again today, and he's going to be one of our principal speakers and people on Thursday night, and he's being very modest, but he's got a wealth of ideas for us, and I really believe he's going to be one of the right guys at the right places. So looking forward to working with you, sir. And as we get closer to working with students, we'll come back. We'll need to have like a memorandum of understanding or something, which we'll be putting together here for you, and that'll be an agenda item in the future.
Can I ask a question about Thursday? Is this supposed to be here, right?
Yeah.
Is this going to be big enough?
Well, we're going to use the gym. We have a sound system and we have chairs. Our thought on that was, this is where the problem is in district. The most recent one was 100 yards from here. So yeah, you could do it more comfortably maybe at the high school, but frankly, there's a lot of people in the school district have transportation issues. So let's have it someplace where it's easy to get to for everybody.
I didn't thought about the gym.
And one of the things that's important is that we get approval from the parents. I don't want to work with any of the children unless I got approval from their parents. That's key to all this, and we want to engage the parents as well.
How big is your team?
Right now, I have 4 people. But I do a couple of different things at the university. I run the gunshot recurrent injury prevention services, where I see the gunshot wound victims that come into the 4 major trauma units. That's one of the ways that I keep up with what's going on the streets as well. Then I review all the homicides in Allegheny County, looking at the trends. I bring all those different resources also to bear. And now we have this outreach grant. I mean, we're not. We'll work with anybody who's already doing different things out there. I believe in collaboration. We have a pretty good relationship with law enforcement. But, whatever we think that we need to do to quell this issue that's going on, not only here in the county, but as well in the city. So we'll collaborate.
Any other questions for Professor Garland?
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Thank you. That concludes the presentation.
We have no registered speakers.
We have no registered speakers this evening, so we'll move into the agenda.
We'll go right to board matters, and action item 2.1 is request approval to transfer $705,325 of the 16-17 surplus funds from General Fund 10 to the Capital Reserve Fund 32.
1.7.
1.7.
Oh.
I guess, it's listed in our stuff. It's not under.
It got moved.
It's supposed to be under board matters. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
Just so we know what we're talking.
Mine's under board matters.
Yeah, it was 1.7 under
Let's see if it's
call to order, but it should be under board matters. It's 2.1.
Okay. It's placed. Everybody find it.
If you're up on the screen, it's the right location. It's under board matters too.
It's weird.
got inadvertently placed in section 1, which there's no actionable matters there, other than the minutes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions or discussion on this issue?
Can Mike just give us a thumbnail of this? So
Mr. Gigliotti, can you give us a brief explanation?
Yes. We have 3 properties last year that were sold. The old administration building, we garnered $692,635. We sold a piece of property adjacent to this building for $10,890, and we sold a vacant lot adjacent to Edgewood Elementary for $1,800. It would be those 3 pieces of a total of $705,325. These are surplus funds that weren't allocated, weren't expected in last year's budget, that you are permitted to transfer to a capital reserve fund, Fund 32. And I would recommend this so that we would have capital improvement money for buildings that will not be covered necessarily by the bond issues. So Edgewood, Wilkins, this building would not be covered, and we can also use this in those other buildings until we get to the actual construction. But it gives us capital improvement money. Expenditures from this fund are limited to capital improvements, replacement of and additions to public works and improvements, and for deferred maintenance thereof. Also for the purchase or replacement of school buses. It doesn't pertain to us because we don't own our fleet, and for no other purpose. So this would be strictly for capital type improvements. We've already done a couple this year. We replaced the burner on the boiler at Wilkin, the intermediate school. And we've also replaced a pump. Both of those were roughly $24,000 together. So those are the kind of improvements that would be made. That's what kind of funds. Those are the kind of improvements that these funds would pertain to. Okay. So, but this is permitted under the municipal code and the school code.
Any questions on?
Does that explain why we're doing it?
Yes.
Okay. Because when we got the money initially last year, we thought it had to go into capital reserve because it was from the sale of a property. But that only happens if the property's still being financed, and that property, none of those properties were being financed any longer. So they actually were supposed to go into general fund. We're just writing the actions we took last year. That helps at all.
Well, but to clarify, this actually we're electing by doing this to move it into capital reserve.
Correct.
Rather than leave it in the general fund, so that we're dedicating the funds to buildings. Is that my understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional question? Okay. Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Mr. Strasbaugh, Ms. Kester, you guys need any help? You got it? You got it? Okay.
The motion passes by a vote of 8 in the affirmative with 1 abstention.
Okay.
Moving on.
Special education, action item 4.1, approve or ratify contract with News Story for the 2017-2018 school year at a cost of $33,396. This is an agreement with an approved private school to educate a student with special needs for the school year.
Is there a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Ms. Johnson. Any questions? Seeing no questions, we'll call the vote. Motion passes with a vote of 8 yeses and 1 abstention.
Now to move us to personnel, action item 6.1.
Before you do that, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to ask we adjourn to executive session for just a few minutes for a couple of personnel questions. We won't be long, I don't think.
Famous last words.
Famous last words.
Oh, no. Did I tell you the trip I made to Russia last year?
Only if it pertained to current sitting.
I just want to make sure.
Hey, Joe, forgot to make copies.
The abstention? We only need one so far.
2. You have to go with she abstained. Did they both abstain on that one? I missed the...
Nope, one on one.
So exact right now. You know what? Thanks for mine that stick around. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they didn't want any more questions. Yes. Open.
Right.
I want to ask some more questions.
I know it couldn't be. That monster down Nice to meet you. Thanks, appreciate you. Hey, listen, I appreciate it. I wouldn't expect anything else. I just told him. Yeah, one more. Look, I'm out of hands and feet right now. Definitely
Yeah. I'm just so surprised about how it's part of everybody's life.
One more. That's right. Yes, sir. That's what I wanted to do.
Oh, really? Well, no, I'm actually. Oh, okay. Well, I am.
Little dude, man. That's so cool. I can
I'm making it.
What you're saying is true.
Okay.
I'll meet you soon with him to come up with the team.
Yeah, little black, you know.
He's also in the band.
You know it happens.
So that person is
yeah.
I mean, y'all, I'm just saying. Not you. Not you, Rob. I'm just saying. I love this problem. Don't get me wrong. I love this. I wasn't afraid of this. You may know that was
That's really weird.
That's okay. And that's unfortunate because I think I think I'm one of the specifically for me. Well, I actually take it. I mean, I have a vision. I didn't worry, but I don't know what I can say about it. Like, I don't know if people really think about it when I say that. I just know people I say that's my whole career here. I never had a boys back. We never went to each other's games. We never went to each other's games. Like the girls every now and then just be like asses. We were going on a team. We were just want to go to the game. Very, very good at this one. I think there was one time where the boys basketball coach let me and another girl come and like practice with them. Just for sugar. It wasn't like showing off. We didn't have practice with they had just nothing. We never had any sort of like relationship with that team. There was never anything going on like student athletes. Like, you know, as you know, we already have any sort of program that encourages other sports. I don't think you guys understand. We got so used to crappy direction. We're used to crappy direction. We're used to having a great together.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm fully aware.
But it's not in you, man. I think it's in anybody.
Yeah, okay.
I think they would give you that. As long as you're well with it and you're going to the program and you're going to do better next year.
Not only that, now scholarships, that was what you said. Now don't become that.
Shut up.
I don't want anyone to start. No one is paying attention. So what is about to happen?
I'm paying attention. It takes so much for me to catch all the information because every day something new. That was the last time ever.
Love you, smile.
The history of the U.S.
I have to go to my class all day. So my class is you're going for this? Yeah. So I'm going to get, yeah, I'm going to so I got to come back. Every year, because they hate us. Because legal political field is MCS and they want to work so they charge us.
I'm good. You need some place to go.
Every state is over. And you're mad.
Temporary.
So yeah, I think that you're doing that.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Shoot a shot.
That means right. Yeah, we played that. Then we played something real crappy the next year. I don't remember.
What's
We
that?
played something called Earth, Wind, Fire, but it wasn't Earth, Wind, Fire.
Yeah, right.
They're ridiculous.
How are you? Oh no, it's hard. Like,
I had to choose. I wasn't so good. Yeah.
Wrestling in one room.
Didn't we do,
I know Lee. He got pretty big now.
I've been telling them for like 3 weeks. I guess there's some people that got to learn all the way. You check the grades.
My senior year.
I never heard anything.
Wow.
I've already got one. I've been here 4 months and I'm already growing gray hair. It's so we tempted.
So what's up? You hear anything more about that? Oh, I know it. He's good. So she is posted.
I'm sure Summer will take some pictures.
What's your name? Oh, you, I know your name, but...
We were all 2005. Yeah, we graduated together.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm Summer's friend and I'm Jenny's friend tomorrow.
I can show you a photo.
That's what we got for this one.
Right.
I did have a photo. Yeah. Yeah, that's all. I guess they theoretically graduate.
Yeah, I was in listening mode. I really want to hear the young people. You know, I don't want to be spreading my old head ideas all the time. So I was just kind of listening. Yeah.
Yesterday, the group of
That we discussed on the way here.
But I needed to be there.
Oh, so were there students? No.
Grown folks.
I had her appointment. I was like texting her and going, allowing her to speak to her.
It was you guys, more like you guys' generation now. They can do my kids, they like I needed to be there. I need to hear it. Try to stay relevant with young people.
This is not fair. It's not perfection. She is both of them. I know. That's like trying to show it to me. So you're shy for a girl. Oh, I know. Oh, yeah.
I'll text you later. Why you like that?
Because I'm on the same thing. Playing games with us. I ain't leaving. I was like, you know, she's like, okay, we can't.
I ain't quitting.
Stuff never went on that room.
I can go get some.
Actually supposed to be arcane, but they're optimistic that number.
Yeah, but you're both in the same region.
Oh, cool. Right. Awesome. That's something to look forward to. Thank you. I'm sorry.
I don't know if they're seated by.
Okay. That's what it is. Got 3 under. Yeah. Oh, shit. Okay. Any questions?
That'll be
there the other day. I was wondering. I don't know if it's sure when he did this. I mean, I'll talk to him.
It was funny because we were at a committee meeting.
Reserve money. Buy a new system. No. Come on, no.
All right. We're going to make this quick. We got 5 minutes till kickoff.
That's what I hear.
All right, let's see.
You can listen to it on the way home.
5 minutes to kickoff.
Yeah. 8:30.
You start watching.
All right, we will resume the meeting. Thank you all for your patience. Apologies for the need to do that. But we'll move now to
Personnel. Action item 6.1. Request approval of sections B, F, and G of the personnel tabs.
So moved.
Second.
moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any discussion appropriate for the public on these?
I have a question regarding G4. The permission to increase the hourly rate for substitute administrators to $325.
What's the daily rate?
What's the current rate and what's the motivation?
Current rate's $300. It's been that for almost 10 years. So there was a request that the board, I consider that. And I looked around to see what was standard around the county, and it ranges anywhere from $250 to $400 a day, depending on where you're at in the county. But again, I checked, and we determined it hadn't been changed since like 2010, I believe, or 2009 maybe.
And
so a slight increase seemed appropriate. We have two, Dr. Jackson and Dr. Wolf, that both do really good work for us, and that was why I put it in. But it's not, board's not comfortable with it. It's fine. I recommend it, but.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote.
Ms. Glasser?
I got no vote. I'm a yes, but I have.
Okay.
Did it come up for you?
Motion passes unanimously.
Action item 6.2, 6.2, it's a recommendation of the administration to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Woodland Hills Education Association for reinstatement of Mr. Adam Pop.
Is there a motion?
So move. Second.
Moved by Ms. Johnson, second by Dr. Hildebrand. I don't believe any discussion of this would be appropriate. Public, so we'll go directly to the vote. My computer.
Steve, you can hear me. Hey, Steve. She lost her.
Oh, okay.
She lost her connection. Shouldn't have.
Okay.
Medic.
Down. Everybody else vote.
Everyone else voted.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Motion passes unanimously with one abstention. We'll move on.
Technology, action item 7.1, request permission to advertise a request for proposals, for wireless network system upgrades. This is our E-rate. Every year we get an E-rate application, and we have certain things we can upgrade or add to our technology infrastructure. We're upgrading our wireless
So moved.
network systems with this.
Second. Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Ms. Johnson. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Further explain what these upgrades.
There you go, Steve.
Steve,
Right there, right on time.
remembering what happens here shortly, Steve. Steve will talk on
For the new members, this is Steve Muter, our Director of Technology.
Yes.
I should say our fine Director of Technology.
If you ever noticed on your phone bill, there's a universal service charge on there. That amount of money goes to fund the federal government E-rate. And those funds will go and supply to all the schools and libraries across the country. We are a member of the CEP for our free and reduced lunch program. That entitles us to the full discount that the federal government will allow. Most equipment is either 85% or 90% discounted. I anticipate that we'll spend maybe $70,000, and we're only going to be responsible for $12,000, $13,000, which we already have budgeted for. This will buy more wireless equipment for 4 of our school buildings. Back in 2015, we did the initial wireless, and we installed in most of the building, but now we've identified other areas that need those devices as well.
So you said that, so what schools is this applying to? Are these the schools that are listed?
Yeah, I have them listed at the bottom, but it's going to be the high school, the intermediate, Wilkins, and the academy.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions for Steve or anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, call the vote. Motion passes unanimously.
That will take us to Section 10, Buildings and Grounds, Action Item 10.1. Approve the proposal from School Dude for on-site training for 2 days on the School Dude Direct in the amount of $4,600. School Dude is the system we use to submit facility requests, but we can also be using it to schedule facilities usage, a number of other things. So we're training some people to be proficient on all the things it can do for us.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Mrs. Seligson. Any questions?
It is a terrible name for a software suite. But
Seeing
it's
no,
good stuff.
seeing no questions, we'll have the vote. Motion passes unanimously with one abstention.
Action item 10.2, request permission for the use of facilities by outside organizations for the 17-18 school year. That's attached.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions on facilities use?
I have a question.
Yes.
So our facilities are being used by outside organizations. Now, are they paying for space to rent the space? How does that work?
We have a policy on it that I'll be glad to send to you. I mean, you're asking like, how do we decide the charge and that kind of thing?
Yes.
Depends on the group. If the group doesn't charge admission and they're primarily servicing district students, then the cost is only whatever it costs if we have to clean up or have a maintenance person there. If they charge admission, then we have a whole different set of rates, and it kind of varies. If they're charging admission, I think there's some levels in. Mike, do you remember that? There's some levels in between there. Basically, if you charge admission, we're going to charge you more for the use of it. So that's kind of the dividing line. If you don't charge admission, you're really servicing school district residents and kids. It's free except for the cleanup. Charging admission, and you pay a higher rate.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean.
That's all right. That's pretty much it.
So the outside organizations that are utilizing our facilities, the children in the district are part of these organizations?
If they're going to get it free, they are.
From other districts?
The policy allows for kids outside the district if somebody wanted to do it, but they have to pay a higher rate.
Okay.
It would be free if they're inside the district.
So it is offered at least to the children in the district?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, that was all.
But it's available to pretty much anyone.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
I have a question. Yeah. So the file is titled December Facility Use, and there's only one organization listed.
Yeah, what happens there is that's only
the application period within this month.
Yeah, we just add the ones that have since the last time. There's a whole host of other ones we can send you, but we just put the ones that are due for that month.
Any other question? Seeing none? Oh. Motion passes unanimously with one abstention.
Action item 10.3, request approval to correct a facilities request from November 15th, 2017 legislative meeting from Woodland Hills Metro Basketball for use of the Academy Gymnasium from December 1st through February the 28th, times from 5:45 to 9:15 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Dr. Hildebrand. Any questions?
Couple questions.
Yeah.
So I know, so they're using the academy gym. I know, does Turtle Creek basketball, they used to use that gym all the time. Are they no longer functioning?
Mr. Corsi, can you answer that question? Mr. Finney's not here.
Yes, absolutely. So, as of right now, Turtle Creek is not using the academy gym. We are using it for our junior high boys and girls basketball programs. And so Metro has been very proactive as far as reaching out to me to figure out what dates and times work for them and for us so that we don't conflict and step on each other's toes. So as of right now, there are openings contingent upon the scheduling and the dates that they've requested.
Okay. And then I just one other thing. The previous request, they requested to use the academy gym on February 2nd and 3rd. February 2nd, they would go right hand in hand with this other agreement that they want this till the end of February. So who gets preference in this? The Boy Scouts on 10-2 or Cub Scouts. They said if you look at their thing, it said they want the academy gym on February 2nd, which is a Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. and then a Saturday from 10 to 1, which is fine. But if you look at the request from the Metro Basketball, they want it every night. So from like 5:45 to 9 p.m. So there'll be two organizations showing up to use that gym on the same night.
And obviously, I'm not familiar with the Boy Scout organization.
I don't know either, but I mean, kind of a bad way. They both show up to use it. Like, well, you both have the permit. What do you, that's
Right.
not good.
This is what school dude is supposed to eliminate.
Yeah.
This happens all the time.
But
This just to let you know, this is a correction because right now this group has December 1st through May
31st.
31st.
That doesn't solve that
So we're
doesn't solve
cutting
our
them
Cub
back
Scout problem.
February 20th.
Right. So
I think we need Mr. Finney, and he's not here tonight. My understanding, and it could be wrong, was that that group is reserving the academy gym, but not necessarily using it. We're still.
Which group?
What's that?
Which group is that?
We're actually here from Woodland Metro.
Okay.
And we do not practice on Fridays, but we did talk to Mr. Finney about it. Some days, if school's closed on Mondays, we do practice on Fridays, but that week, we would not be in the gym. So,
Okay.
And can I add that we've always been agreeable to if any other opportunity exists for you guys, we would also move our schedule. We've never been opposed to working with the school district, number one, and other organizations as they can.
Yeah, my comment wasn't directed at you about double booking things, but with the system we have now, there's no way to check, right? If the boys call on something and you guys already have it, they have no way of knowing that. And we don't have any way of knowing that until we go back and look through like 3 months of board tabs to see if anybody requested.
Actually, that's the reason why we're here tonight.
So we're hopeful that the computer program will address that issue. So what I'm hearing from you folks is that we're not going to have a conflict on the 2nd of February. Okay.
Why is it so long though? Is that like a season or? Because that's blocking off a lot of time. So I'd like to know is that a season?
Come on up. That's fine. Yeah.
My name is Ebony Pinckney. I am the former vice president of Metro Basketball. We have the current president, current vice president, treasurer, another board member at large. And we were actually here tonight because of permit issues. So the reason why our season is so long is because we are part of a larger organization. Pittsburgh Metro has their dates that we have to adhere to. So we have to do tryouts, workouts, assess our kids. It's a tryout kind of setup, a whole season. 10 full games. We have to do 5 home games. And then we try to keep these kids together through tournament season. I actually prepared a statement. I can wait until the open session if you want, or else I can.
But let's address these issues now, and we'll hear your statement during the public comment part. That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from you is that we're not going to have a conflict on February 2nd, which was Mr. Hanchett's concern.
Correct.
So
I have no issue with the basketball.
Yeah.
I just
when this organization was started, it was actually started by the school district. Coach Novak started it. It was the understanding that even if we did have gym time, that at any time if the school district needed those gyms for practice, home games was the only thing that was not negotiable for obvious reasons, that we would be more than willing to move our schedule. And we've never had an issue that I can think of thus far pertaining to scheduling. What the issue is we're very proactive with our permits. I personally put our permits in May for our whole season. Communication pertaining to those permits have been lacking. So we know our schedule. We put it forth. We try to keep in touch with the administration for those things. But it just seems like there's something missing here to where Organization A, Organization B are both putting in permits, and there's no way to kind of foresee any kind of conflicts. And because of that, I can't speak for anybody, but it seems like our permits can't get approved proactively for this reason. Now, I understand that, you guys, you only have so many facilities, but for us, we have to answer to a larger organization. So, and some of those things are that we have to have home games, and we have to have those permits in before the season starts. So the issue that happened on Saturday, or Friday actually, is that our first home game, 10 games, were canceled less than 24 hours before. So that was a huge thing for us, when pretty much our only commitment to the organization was to secure 5 home games. When we put in the permit for the home games, we have to put in a snow day, makeup day, and then we always put in 2 dates in case of playoffs, in case we're awarded playoffs. Last year we weren't, the first year we weren't, last year we weren't awarded playoffs, but it also goes back to the original thought of, if we don't need it, we give it back. And as soon as we find out that we don't need those dates, last year it was Steve. I'm pretty sure he was tired of talking to me. I called Steve or emailed Steve and let him know we didn't get playoffs, or we won't need the gym this day. So it goes back into the pool. So like I said, we've always been very agreeable and tried to work hand in hand with administration pertaining to this.
You approved those dates. Why was your thing canceled on Friday?
So, Saturday.
Sorry.
So, since there was the change of personnel with Steve, it's been kind of a back and forth. So when I submitted the permits to Steve, it was understood that everything was going to be approved. Then there was a change of personnel. I'm not sure what happened. We found out that somebody else was taking that responsibility. So at that time, I stepped down from that position. Shanair Pinckney took that position. He gained contact with the person in charge of that. Since then, it's been just back and forth. Somebody saying that it's approved, it's going to be on the agenda, back and forth, just back and forth. So how can I put it? We wouldn't just assume that something was approved. We would not do that. We were told, we have communications, our board member have come down and talked to the office. But like I said, we only had 5 home games. So those weren't really negotiable. When we plan those dates, I'm always in contact with wrestling, because wrestling has home games, home meets. Swimming, Woodland Hills Aquatic Team, they have a home meet. So like we talk, and we try to foresee what other organizations have those gyms at that time. We also are in talks with the athletic department, because they have practices during the mornings during basketball season. So we can't even get in there until 2. So like, this is something that it took us the first year. We weren't in charge of it the first year. Those were already set up for us. That second year we worked, I worked closely with Steve, and we got a good process down, but now Steve's not here. So it's kind of like we started over from scratch, and it seems like the communication is just not there. And so literally our home game was canceled less than 24 hours, which we still have to pay for referees. We had to contact 10 opponents, 10 communities coming from all over the Pittsburgh area, and tell them that our games were canceled with less than 24 hours, which actually is not acceptable by Pittsburgh Metro standards. So that, yeah. We were told that the reason why it had to be canceled was because they couldn't find a custodian to work it. And so when we tried to find, when we asked for clarification, the custodians didn't know about our home games, which is very frustrating, because like I said, I've been working on these permits since May, and it takes some time, because we do have to coordinate a lot of different schedules. So we were told that a custodian wasn't available for the evening, and they couldn't call somebody in, which, I know everybody has rules, but like, that was a big hit for our organization. We worked really hard to, keep the Woodland Hills standard, and we've never had an incident. Everything is clean, above board, and we service 99 kids. It would be close to 140, but we've had some changes with our teams. 99 kids. And so that's 99 families that we're servicing, and they're pretty disappointed. They're, you know,
Are they all Woodland Hills kids?
Most of them are.
But not all.
The only way that they are not Woodland Hills if they don't have a metro program in their school district.
So not all of them are Woodland Hills kids, no?
No. What did you say about probably 80%?
They don't go to our schools. Right, they go to Propel, Catholic schools, and take them.
Right. So maybe like 85% of our kids.
Well, the issue was, you guys did approve our permits, your September meeting, but somehow we fell through the cracks, and we didn't get a phone call until Friday at 12 that there was no custodian to work, so we had to scramble.
I believe the custodian called off. Is that right, Mike?
No, they did not know that they.
I thought it was one called off.
No, there was no one set up to work. They did not have that schedule in their hands. They do now.
Who handles that?
They did not. Facilities. Okay. They do now. My understanding was the custodian at the high school, the only one that didn't get a copy. Whatever.
But now that schedule is at the high school, so this won't be an issue for the remaining games?
No, it shouldn't.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't remember if we voted on 10.3 or not.
We have not yet voted. That was discussion.
Yeah. Sorry.
So we can now have the vote.
No.
Yeah, feel for it.
We're adjusting their schedule. They went the whole summer.
Okay. Motion passes unanimously.
Just hearing at her.
Go to school finance. Action on 12.1. Request ratification of the bill list for invoices paid after the November 15th legislative meeting.
So moved.
These are mostly utility bills and things we have to pay to maintain credit.
Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Ms. Johnson. Any questions on the ratification list? Okay. Seeing none, have the vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Action on, action item 12.2, request approval of the December 2017 bill list.
Is there a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Belmont. Any questions on the bill list? Okay. Seeing none, have the vote.
Okay.
Motion passes unanimously.
Action on 12.3, request approval of the budgetary transfers for December 2017, excuse me.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Belmont. Second. Second by Ms. Johnson. Any questions on the budget transfers? Seeing none, vote. Motion passes unanimously with one abstention.
Action item 12.4, request the acceptance of the independent auditor's report for informational purposes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Good.
Moved by Mr. Belmont, second by Ms. Johnson. Any questions? The auditors were here earlier, so seeing no questions, the vote, please. Motion passes unanimously.
Can I make a comment real quick? Sure. I'd just like to compliment Mr. Gigliotti on getting everything together so quickly, getting it done timely, and obviously everything's done accurately based on the audit.
Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you,
It wasn't
Mike.
only me. I have a whole staff.
Okay.
You and your staff.
Mr. Gigliotti and his staff.
There you go.
Oh, you take the heat when it's. You get the praise too.
So.
Action item 12.5, request approval to purchase SEC. Is that the football conference?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, SEC post-issuance compliance services from DAC. Initial cost of $3,000 from Capital Project Fund 39, and thereafter annual fee of $1,500 from General Fund 10.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Hanchett. Any questions?
How important is it, Mr. Gigliotti?
Sorry?
How important do you feel this is, Mr. Gigliotti?
I feel it's important in the short term.
How long do you think we'll need it for?
Hopefully 2 years, 3 years tops.
So so when this was first proposed, it didn't sound like this organization was going to, it sounds like these guys are actually doing a significant amount of work. Is that true?
They're going to provide us with guidance, 12 hours of training, and reminders. And then they will review the information also to make sure that it's supposed to be put out there. We have a list already, but they're just going to put their stamp of approval, and then we file it. We'll be good to go.
If I could add something, without endorsing this group or anything like that, one thing I have in one other district in particular, we're doing bond issues. There happens to be a board member who is in, he does SEC compliance for federated investors. He's on this stuff and he will look at the things and he will do that. So the underlying issue really has been of importance, greater importance these past few years. So I mean, I'm not saying anything about what this company does, but what I'm saying is the issue that they're addressing is real. So.
Well, this is definitely real. This could, like Mr. McCaig said, that could affect the next batch of money we go get.
Mike, would this address the issues that happened with the 2005 bond that we ended up talking to the IRS?
No.
It wouldn't have anything to do with that?
No, this has nothing to do with that. This is strictly post-compliance reporting. There is certain information that we have to provide to the financial community through this procedure on our ongoing financial and operating status.
Wouldn't post-issuance compliance include expending the funds within the prescribed?
No.
That's
not SEC. That's IRS.
That's okay.
Okay, I have a question. So if this is to be short term, what are we doing after then? You said that they give us reminders, they basically do the checks and balances, so
we will.
What will we have in place? If we're paying them, it's $3,000 up front and then $1,500, correct?
Yes. First year, $3,000, $1,500 set up, which is discounted by $5,000, and $1,500 for the compliance part of it.
And you're projecting
Next year,
they'll be here
it'll
for about 2-3
$1,500
years?
for the compliance part of it, and that's it. So, because we'll already be set up in their system. And they will work with us and remind us and review the information that we're to provide. And once the staff and everybody has gone through the training and stuff, can basically feel that once we get to the point that we feel comfortable, we have us under control, we can non-renew it.
So this is not like an insurance then?
It is an insurance. It is. They will. It's not like an insurance. No, it is not like an insurance. But they will assume the liability if anything comes down through the SEC for non-filing of the information.
For the next 2 to 3 years, and then
For as long as we contract with it.
As long as we pay.
As long as we contract with it.
But we're paying it short term.
Short term.
So, in hindsight, that actually means that they'll
We have been out of
keep us
compliance.
covered for a short period of time.
Yes. And then
That was it.
Yeah, we've been out of compliance for the last 5 years for different reasons. Some for operating information, some for financial information. We're I've got things set up that we shouldn't have any more problems, but because of the financial market and the comfort level they want to fill with us, I feel that we need to do this, give us a level of comfort in the financial community so we can borrow funds without problems.
So we could, as a board, though, if we felt this was a good investment, elect to continue it.
Oh, yeah, you can elect to
for as long as we'd like to.
As long as you like to.
So if we feel that we need the compliance assurances,
yes,
we can continue it longer if we choose to.
Yeah, longer if you choose to.
I just feel like it was brought to us differently this time than it was the first time.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I feel.
That's why you asked them to come re-explain it.
Any additional questions?
No.
Okay. Seeing no questions, we will have the vote.
Well put.
Motion passes unanimously. Oh, I'm sorry. Motion passes 8-1.
Action item 12.6, request approval of the board to adopt the Act 1 Index Resolution 526.17 for the 2018-19 budget. That would increase, well, I'll just leave it stand as we can discuss that.
Is there a motion?
Act 1 Index.
So, second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mr. Belmont. Any questions?
What this means is we cannot raise taxes past the index for the coming school year.
Right. So to be clear, this is not a decision on whether or not we will raise taxes. It is merely indicating that we will not seek any exceptions to the index for this year, so we will not exceed what is allowed.
Right. You're not agreeing to raise any taxes necessarily.
I have a question. Would this be reflected, is this statement applicable only to the final budget, or I remember earlier for this year's budget there was preliminary budget that you talked about, Mr. Gigliotti, that surpassed this resolution. So would this apply also to preliminary budget?
This applies to the 2018-19 budget.
Final budget.
Just the whole process.
Right.
The whole process.
Whole process. So
yes, we will not filing a preliminary budget if we adopt this resolution.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
There's no preliminary budget.
The preliminary budget.
Yes.
Is that clear? Is everybody clear on what?
Right.
Okay. Any additional questions? Okay. Motion passes unanimously.
Those are all the motions I have, Ms. Glasser.
Okay. That will move us then to old business. Is there anyone who wishes to raise any old business? Okay. Seeing none. Is there anyone who wishes to raise new business? Seeing none, we'll move to committee reports. As we did last month, we will review the committee notes from last 2 weeks ago, I guess, and adopt and approve those as a board. I guess we'll read through those. Special Education Committee met on November 20th, and we discussed the behavior coach in the therapeutic classroom in grades 4 to 6. It was an added position. We discussed the role of the Pennsylvania alternate system of assessment in our schools, and communication between administration and how special ed can play a role in our buildings as we move forward. And that was special ed. Technology Committee met on the 20th as well. We talked about tonight's board tab related to the E-rate and the RFP that will be issued. And we also discussed the transportation software, which we expect to be coming up in future meetings. I believe in January we'll expect to see a tab for that, so everyone should be aware of that. Transportation and Food Service met on the 21st. and reported on the meeting with Ted Vassar, who was the retired transportation director for Pittsburgh Public Schools, and his thoughts and recommendations on the issues with transportation in our district. We also discussed the transportation software, fittingly, at the Transportation Committee, and discussed our continued efforts with Port Authority. In food service, there will be a grab-and-go breakfast for 7th grade. Going forward, we're purchasing food service carts for that use. Mr. Belmont, do you want to discuss the Finance Committee notes?
Sure. There were 5 items. There was discussion of including minority law firm. Also discussed the capital reserve transfer that occurred. Discussed the DAC continuing disclosure agreement. And next item was ratifying the bill list, trying to minimize the number of items that are ratified each month. And we discussed CD investments.
And finally, Curriculum Committee also met on the 20th, at which we discussed comprehensive planning and the cyclical comprehensive planning process that we are currently engaged in, and our benchmark reviews. We looked at some of the data that we've been seeing from our new data programs and software that we've been seeing. So those are the committee reports from November. As we go forward and get back into our regular committee structure, we'll have more reports from different people on the panel. I won't be reading all of them going forward. So having addressed those, we can. Is there a motion to accept the committee reports as stated?
Second.
Moved by Dr. Hildebrand, second by Mrs. Seligson. Any discussion on those?
There wasn't an athletics report for this month.
There was no athletic committee meeting this month. So, no report from there.
I have a question.
Yes.
And I understand this is from the minutes, but the grab and go breakfast, is that for the high school children? Is that for and the academy?
No, just high school.
Why is that?
The academy already has a different breakfast structure, so I mean we are trying to find ways to increase breakfast participation at the academy, but we're trying it through some different means.
Okay. I'll discuss that later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the committee? Okay. Seeing none. Oh. Okay, and those minutes are approved unanimously. That'll move us into public communication. If there's anyone who wishes to address the board, they may do so at this time. The board welcomes and encourages public comment. Before making remarks, speakers should give their name and address of residence. Remarks are limited to 2 minutes, and questions raised during remarks will be addressed following the meeting. Personal attacks on staff and officials are out of order and will not be tolerated. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board at this time?
My name is Cheryl Maccabee. I am the minority law firm that perhaps you were speaking about, that you were addressing in one of your committees. And we would still like to meet with the superintendent. We have called twice, and we did have that meeting before that you couldn't make. And we would like to meet with the superintendent and discuss what we do as a firm. You were talking earlier about black business community. We are the black business community. And I live at 205 Garrick Drive, Churchill, PA. For the record. And at any rate, we think that we have something to offer this school district, and we think that by our presence here, that a lot of the need for PR firms and so on may be dispelled. For instance, we could talk about hiring a PR firm to, or you could talk rather about hiring a PR firm to increase your visibility and help your presence in the community. But one great way of not even needing that would be to hire professional services of people who are people of color in the community. So I think that we would really like to meet with you, and we are here, we are ready to serve, and we're ready to help you.
Adjourned. Thank you all.
Happy
holidays.
Steelers look bad?
Yeah.
Oh, you
10-0.